Welcome to this explainer on how to perfectly cool your high-power AI workstation without it sounding like an airport runway. If you're running massive sustained AI loads, training models for hours or even days on end, you definitely already know this struggle. You're sitting there trying to focus, but right next to your desk is this absolute screaming jet engine of a PC. You want the performance, and you obviously need the cooling to protect that insanely expensive hardware, but you absolutely do not want the deafening, anxiety-inducing roar of a machine working overtime. It is just exhausting. Well, today, we're going to fix that. Here is our roadmap for upgrading your cooling setup. We'll hit the golden rule, airflow versus static pressure, our top fan picks, mapping out the perfect airflow path, and we'll wrap up with the positive pressure secret. Starting with Section 1, the golden rule. Let's tackle a massive misconception in the PC building community right out of the gate. Does a well-cooled rig actually have to sound like a jet taking off? I mean, it's a supernatural assumption, right? If you're generating a ton of heat, more cooling must equal more fan speed, which must equal more noise. But basic physics actually proves the exact opposite. You absolutely do not need to sacrifice your sanity to keep your GPU from melting down during a tough workload. Here is the golden rule you've got to commit to memory. Big and slow always beats small and fast. A 120mm fan working hard generates a really steep, piercing whine, and there's a scientific reason for that. Decibels scale logarithmically with RPM, so pushing a small fan just a little bit faster creates an exponentially louder acoustic profile. But look at the alternative. A 140mm fan, just loafing along at roughly 800 RPM, moves the exact same massive volume of air, but it creates a continuous, gentle river of air with dramatically less noise. For a sustained AI load running all night long, this principle is absolute gold. Bigger fans running slower. Moving on to Section 2, airflow versus static pressure. Before we go shopping, we really need to understand the tools of the trade. Look, not all fans serve the same purpose. First up, airflow fans. These guys have open blades engineered specifically to move the highest volume of air possible through wide, unobstructed spaces. Think of them like a wide, gently moving river. They are your absolute go-to for standard case intake and exhaust positions, basically anywhere they sit right against an open grill with absolutely nothing blocking the wind they generate. Contrast that directly with static pressure fans. Totally different beasts. These use closed, pressure-optimized blades built specifically to force air through highly restrictive barriers. If airflow fans are a wide river, static pressure fans are like putting your thumb tightly over a garden hose to forcefully blast water through a very tight spot. If you're running a liquid all-in-one cooler, you absolutely must use static pressure fans to literally force air through that dense radiator fin stack. Throw a standard airflow fan on a radiator, and the air just bounces right back. You would be leaving massive cooling performance on the table. Section 3, the top fan picks. Armed with that knowledge, let's look at the absolute best hardware you can grab for your workstation right now. So what you choose here really depends on your priorities. For the absolute best engineering money can buy, the Noctua NF-A series is just phenomenal. The highly refined bearing produces zero audible mechanical noise. We're talking a practically inaudible 16 decibels. Now, if your rig sits right next to your monitor and sheer silence is your number one goal, the Be Quiet Silent Wings 4 is a whisper-quiet premium part engineered around exactly that. And then there's Arctic. Get a load of this number, $8.50. This literally breaks all the traditional price-to-performance rules in PC building. The Arctic P12 Pro and P14 models deliver roughly 90% of that premium near-silent performance for around $8.50 a fan. Because of this beautifully lopsided price-to-performance ratio, you can affordably deck out an entire chassis with Arctic fans without compromising a single aspect of your quiet cooling strategy. You don't have to break the bank to populate every single empty fan mount in your case. And as we're about to see, filling those mounts is the actual secret to a truly silent rig. Which brings us to Section 4, the perfect airflow path. Because the best fan in the world won't do you any good if it's pointed the wrong way. Execution is everything. You want to create a hyper-clean, one-way highway straight through your chassis. Typically, you pull cool air in through the front. With 2 or 3 intakes, sweep that fresh air directly across your heavy hitters, the GPU and the CPU, and then shove that freshly heated air completely out the back and top, before it ever has a chance to recirculate. The absolute biggest mistake? Having fans pointing in opposing directions just fighting each other. That literally short-circuits the flow and turns your expensive rig into a stifling hotbox. Keep it clean. In the front, straight across, out the back. Now, here's a totally counterintuitive fact. More fans actually means less noise. Sounds crazy, right? But it goes right back to our golden rule. If you distribute the intense cooling load across 5 or 6 total fans, each individual fan barely has to spin to move a massive amount of air. Populating every mount and setting them to a gentle, flat fan curve in your BIOS is vastly superior to running just 2 overworked fans desperately screaming at max speed. Finally, Section 5, the positive pressure secret. Let's cover a setup detail most people completely miss, which dictates how long your PC actually stays clean. By simply running slightly more intakes than exhausts, say 3 in the front and just 2 in the back, you create what's known as positive pressure inside the case. Why does this matter for noise? Because with positive pressure, air is actively pushed out of every tiny unfiltered crack in your case. Dust literally can't get in unless it goes through your front filters, which you can just slide out and clean in about 10 seconds. For a machine crunching 24/7 AI loads for months on end, this is the defining difference between pristine cooling and a thermal nightmare. A clean interior effortlessly maintains optimal temps and stays quiet. But a negative pressure setup, it literally acts like a vacuum cleaner, sucking dust in through every unfiltered crack until your heat sinks are totally clogged. It runs dramatically hotter, and as it gets hotter, those fans have no choice but to ramp up their RPM, systematically destroying all the hard work you did to keep things quiet. All right, let's bring it all together. Prioritize 140mm fans wherever they fit for that big, slow airflow. Match the fan type to the job. Airflow for open spaces, static pressure for radiators. Rigidly enforce that clean front-to-back path. Use positive pressure to banish dust forever. And finally, let those high-quality fans loaf along on a nice, flat curve. So I'll leave you with this. If you pop the side panel off your PC right now, what would you see? Are your fans fighting each other? Are they spinning way too fast? Achieving absolute silence during heavy AI workloads isn't dark magic. It's just a straightforward physics equation that is entirely within your control. So take a look inside your rig today and start turning that noisy, distracting wind tunnel back into a unified, silent river of air.